The mystical art and magic works in many different ways, but driving to a movie theater and getting tickets and food and sitting there and watching a movie isn't magic whatsoever at all. But that's what I did anyways, because yesterday I saw Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And if you clicked on this video, you know what this is about. This is me talking about the movie and my thoughts and what I think about it. But we're not going to get into spoiler territory because that's every movie review or thoughts I want to do. You know, a regular review for non-spoilers and then a spoiler review. So let's get into it. No spoilers here, but let's go. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I really don't know where to start first. Basically, everything in this movie that I can talk about is a spoiler. Everything and anything I could talk about will be a spoiler. So I'm trying not to get in that spoiler territory. That's for another video, like I said, which I can't wait to record and talk about. But for this, let's see where to start. Well, for one, I can certainly say this movie is definitely madness. It's all over the place. But to get this across first, I will say I enjoyed it. I liked it. It's a big MCU movie, so I think if you're ahead and if you're all caught up with the MCU, you're gonna have to see this movie. Even if you don't want to see the movie, things happen in this movie that will eventually spread out and branch out to the rest of the MCU going forward, like the future of the Marvel movies. So a lot of things happen in this movie that you're going to want to see, and you need to see for everything to make sense going onwards. Even if you don't want to see the movie and you're trying to avoid it or anything like that, you're still going to enjoy it because there's certain parts that probably shouldn't be rated PG-13 or whatever it's rated. I know it's not rated R, but the movie is enjoyable. I enjoyed it. I think I liked it. Some things I would talk about, but spoiler territory, and other things I'm going to get to that I didn't like about it or I think could have been better. But it's going to be enjoyable regardless. There's certain parts of the movie where you're going to like, no matter where you look at it or no matter what perspective you have on the movie. I think there's still parts that you would enjoy. Going into it, I didn't know what to expect. I just knew it was a Doctor Strange movie, which it didn't even have to be a Doctor Strange movie in the first place. They could have just named it Multiverse of Madness, but for some reason the Marvel movies and the MCU always categorize it under a specific character as like a sequel or something. Like Civil War, that didn't have to be a Captain America movie. They could have just named it Civil War or Marvel Studios Civil War, whatever you want to call it. But they named it Captain America. But same with this. It didn't have to be a Doctor Strange movie, even though he is the main character. Even him being the main character does get off of the pivot for some moments, and they focus on other things more than the main character himself. But they do delve into him a good bit, so it's not awfully bad, or they don't sideline him too much, which is good. But a lot of other characters are also explored in this, which I liked. From where you look at it, they might have sidelined him a bit too much, but that depends on how you look at it. For me, I think it was fine. But not only him as a character, I think all the characters in the movie overall, it definitely could have been longer. I don't know if they wanted to make it shorter or not as long because they didn't want it on an end game type of level, or they didn't want to make the movies too long or anything like that. But it definitely could have been longer. There's a lot of things in this movie, like a specific character that didn't even have to be in it, and other characters having to be branched out more. I think they could have done a lot more, and they could have made it longer. And everything could have made more sense and branched out a little bit and delved deeper into it to have a connection with the viewers and just as a movie overall. And the plot, have it thicken. So I guess it's pretty much everything. They could have just made the movie longer and branched out everything a bit more, and I think it could have been better. And the plot probably would have made more sense. I think the plot is really the only thing that brings this movie down, because it's a bit of a mess, but it kind of made sense. I will say this movie is an amazing introduction to the multiverse, and I think it covers it pretty well. And they made it make sense in this movie. But for the plot of this film specifically, it was kind of a mess, and I think it was really the main weak part of the movie. Like I said, the main character is sidelined a little bit. We get more of other characters than we actually get of Doctor Strange, which I didn't really mind. Like I said, it didn't have to be categorized under a Doctor Strange movie, but I get they wanted to make a sequel to him, and he was the main character after all, so I guess so. But they could have not used a specific character, which you'll see if you see the movie. But the plot was, I think, the weak part. But I still enjoyed the movie regardless, and I think it is a solid MCU film. It's a solid movie overall, and maybe just because it has a lot of big factors, and it has a lot of moments that are good and will like solidify themselves as MCU films or MCU scenes like going onwards, and like people will know exactly what scene you're talking about, and they're going to be big scenes going onwards, just like how they were in the film. I don't know how much more sense I need to make with that, but if you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's big highlighted scenes in this film that are big scenes and are going to branch out to more of the MCU going forwards. Like I said, it's a big film in the MCU, whether or not as a sequel or anything, just specific moments in the film are big, and you need to see it to make sense of the MCU going forwards, and probably what will happen going onwards. If you're here and haven't seen the movie, I will tell you this: the trailers don't make sense of anything at all. They don't tell you anything about the plot or anything literally about the movie. It just shows you scenes from the movie, which is cool, I guess, but it literally tells you nothing about the movie. Like, I didn't know what to expect, and I've seen the trailers like more than once, and I still didn't know what to expect, or I had no clue what was actually happening besides just the multiverse. And Doctor Strange is in it, Wanda's in it. There's a new character named America Chavez, and Wong, and everything else. But it literally tells you nothing about the plot and what the story is in this movie. So you have to see the movie for yourself to actually get a feel of it and actually learn and see for yourself what the movie's actually about in theaters. The plot isn't awfully written or anything like that, but I think it's weak and they could have fleshed it out more. Like I said, it could have been longer, but I don't know why they didn't make it longer, because a lot of things do feel rushed and it happens quickly, and you actually have to take a time to process it, which I don't really say that much, because a lot of the time I'm like, oh, all right, and I understand it. This movie, I actually had to sit a bit and actually process what was actually happening, and I didn't know what if it actually happened or not, like this and that. So a lot of things just happen quickly, and just the story overall is just a little rushed. And like I said, I think it could have been branched out more, and they could have made it longer. And again, they didn't have to do it with that specific character. Or I could just say it. It's not really a spoiler, but I think Chavez didn't have to be a character in the first place. I think they could have done it without her, but they did anyways for reasons that I don't even know. Because I don't even know if she's going to play a part in the MCU going forwards. But I could say I really hope she does, because it worked well in the film, and if they included her in this film, I really hope she does branch out more in the MCU. But because she could have been just this character for this movie, like how Mysterio was for Far From Home, or other characters in other MCU films. But like I said, I don't think they really needed her, but they did use her, and I still enjoyed it regardless. But like I said, I think they could have just made the movie longer, or they could have just branched out even more. Now, one thing that does shine in this movie that I immediately noticed from the start of the movie was that it was a Sam Raimi film. Sam Raimi directed it, the same director of the Spider-Man trilogy that starred Tobey Maguire. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. I was watching this movie, and I would see his vision. I would notice certain shots and certain zoom-ins and how the movie was filmed and how it was just everything planned out and how everything took place. I could just tell that it was a Sam Raimi movie. Maybe it's because I've seen the Spider-Man movies one too many times. Maybe. But I could just tell. I heard that same thought, or I heard that same exact line many times before I seen the movie, and I didn't know how to make sense of it, and I didn't realize what it really they were meant by it. But now after seeing the movie, I could say that I know exactly what they were talking about, and I agree with them. Sam Raimi directing this film, he really left his imprint on this, and it really shined in this. And also another thing I want to mention, and I want to get out there and say it myself, is that this movie is beautiful. Visually, it is stunning, and they are very creative with it. Literally everything in the movie is creative. The way things are handled, the camera work, how everything looks, everything is very visually stunning, and it's probably one of the best looking films. But back to what I was saying. And of course, that's not the only thing about how this movie went, just the directing, but everything about the movie was thrilling. It was exciting. It was madness, like I said. There isn't really a moment where it stops and slows down. Maybe actually a few scenes now that I'm thinking about it, but most of the movie is just you're in the moment, and it's there, and it's in your face. And with this, it worked. I think it did work, and it worked pretty well. And as the trailers actually do tell you, off the bat, is that this movie is graphic. And I love that. There's a lot of scenes that I'm not going to talk about, because some of them are spoiler territory, and some of them are just things that I don't want to spoil for you, that are not really spoiler territory for the movie, but it's just scenes that I would like you to see yourself, if you haven't seen it yet. But some scenes I was like, oh my god, holy and it was just insane. Like some moments in the movie, I actually was like did like a double take on it. I was like, wow, that actually happened. Marvel has actually gotten into the feel of like like a horror kind of situation. When they was first rumored that it was going to be a horror kind of film, or MCU's first graphic film, I thought they were going to introduce Nightmare, which is a Marvel villain, and I was hoping for it, but they didn't do that, and this is a different villain, and it worked, and I think it worked really well. Like I said though, I'm not going to say anything about it or spoil it because it doesn't even matter spoiler wise, like plot wise, but I'm not going to say anything about it, so you get to see it for yourself first sight in the movie, and you won't expect it like I did, and that just makes it all times better. But overall, I think that's all my complaints. I could praise this movie for a lot of stuff, but I also have some things to say negatively about it, like I was just talking about. But overall, the movie is good. I enjoyed it. I think it was good. It wasn't bad at all. I don't think it was terrible or anything like that. I did enjoy it, and I thought it was pretty good. It was more than decent, but it wasn't amazing or anything like that. Again, it was an amazing introduction to the multiverse, and overall I enjoyed it. All the characters played a part, which is actually a good thing, because a lot of times there's characters that really don't do anything, especially in big movies, which I think they tried not to make this that big, even though it is big. Like, there was a lot of rumors. Well, no, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the fan base is really what made it bigger than what it was. It's still a big movie, and it's still a massive MCU film when it comes to scale. If they are gonna like branch it out and advance to the next like upcoming movies and branch out the MCU more, you're gonna have to see this, like I said. But the fan base really made a bunch of rumors about like all these types of cameos and stuff, which don't expect to see. There are some cameos that the trailer does kind of tell you that or hints at, but besides that, there's not like too many. Don't like have too high expectations, at least for the cameos. And like I said, the characters that are introduced are there, and that's spoiler territory I'm not going to get into. But the characters that we already know about: Doctor Strange, Wanda Maximoff, Wong, America Chavez, the new character that, which I said didn't really need to be in it, but they included anyways for reasons that I don't even know. But it still made for a good film. I think it was pretty good. It was more than decent. It wasn't too anything spectacular though, like I think they were trying to make it out to be. But I think it was still good for the multiverse, like I said, and you're gonna have to see it, going onwards. And by the way, Wanda Maximoff, she does amazing in this. Scarlet Witch really does shine in this, and is probably the best part about the film, besides seeing the multiverse stuff. And then, of course, our main character, Doctor Strange, which is also good. But like I said, he gets sidelined a little bit compared to other characters, which you'll see if you've seen the movie, or if you've already seen the movie, then you already know what I'm talking about. But the characters were good, and Wanda killed it, or I guess Elizabeth Olsen killed it. Regardless, though, every character played their part, and I think it turned out pretty well. And honestly, now that I've seen this movie, I could kind of make sense of all the Wanda stans and people that fanboy over Wanda now. Kinda. I'm not gonna justify it, but kinda. Well, now I think I've talked about what I wanted to talk about, and shed light on specific things that I wanted to, bring up, without bringing specific spoilers in it, because most of the movie, or pretty much all of the movie, is spoilers. And actually, one more thing I want to say before I end the video is that if you haven't seen this movie, you can stay for the credits, because there are 2 post-credit scenes in this film. But I think this is pretty much it. And I think that's my opinion on the movie as a whole, instead of, talking about specific scenes, which we will get into in a later video, and I hope you come watch that as well as this video, which, by the way, thank you for clicking on it. Come back next time for the spoiler review if you want to check that out. I'll probably have a lot to talk about there, because, again, the whole movie spoilers. But I think this is pretty good. I think it ended pretty well. And, well, that's it. That's my thoughts, and this has been the video. Thanks for joining me, and I hope, if you haven't seen the movie, you go yourself and enjoy Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But thank you for joining me and hearing my thoughts and hearing me out in this video, and this is it. Subscribe, like, comment, etc., etc. The all common stuff you hear everywhere else on YouTube. And I'm Ghosty. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it greatly, and that's it. I bid you all a farewell. And no, this video doesn't have a post-credit scene.